Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Laser Technologies session. So today morning we discussed about the first laser system, which was invented by Meerman in 1960. So this is the practical components of the laser system, and the crystal, the active medium used for this laser system is a ruby crystal. So ruby is actually a composition of aluminum oxide and chromium. So your chromium atoms are doped into your aluminum oxide to make a ruby crystal. So this is a active medium. So your laser transition will happen in the energy levels of the chromium. Your aluminum oxide is the host to make your proper energy levels. And these are the cross-sectional view of your laser system of the first ruby laser. You can see here. So these are the parts assembled here. So you have a lamp and you have the crystal, and the crystal is on plain sides are coated with the silver atoms, so that one side is fully reflected and the other side is partially reflected. And now these are the power supply to turn on your lamp. Okay, this is the cross-sectional view of the laser system, and these are the energy levels where your lasing action takes place. So this is are the energy levels for the chromium 3+ atoms. Okay, so you have a transition from A2 to F2. So that is your pumping. Via pumping through your lamp, so you excite atoms in the ground state to 4F2 excited state. So then atoms quickly relax to 2E state, so through non-radiative process. So from this you have a laser transition from 2E state to 4A2, where your 2E state is a degenerate state. So there you can see two transitions, out of which the transition from the lower state will be highly prominent. So your pump laser is, or your pumping at 550 nanometers. So your pump from A2 state to F2 state, that means there is an energy gap associated with the wavelength of 550 nanometers. Now you assume your pumping requires at 550 nanometers. You are using a lamp which is a broadband. We will see in the later stage what are the lamps spectrum. So then you think about it, how much intensity it is getting wasted using flash lamps. So these are the output from this laser system. So the most of the wavelength will be around 694.3 nanometers. So that is our ruby, the highly prominent transition. So this is published in Nature in 1960. Okay, so you can choose different active mediums such as different solid state materials. Here it's called a Ti-sapphire crystal. Okay, so the Ti-sapphire crystal is, your titanium is doped into a sapphire crystal. Okay, so this makes you having a 4-level system to get your laser transitions. So this is very popular material for a laser system. So you can always, people known to call as a Ti-sapphire lasers. Okay, the active medium is Ti-sapphire. So based on the lasers you develop, people commonly called as a Ti-sapphire laser system. So these are very predominantly using in the many research laboratories and industries. And the another one is Nd:YAG crystals. As I mentioned previously, your Nd:YAG means a neodymium dope into yttrium, aluminium, garnet. It's kind of a composition. Your neodymium, yttrium, aluminum and garnet with a proper composition, you are able to get a lasing action. So these are the crystals you can see, Nd:YAG crystals. And so these are the solid state materials. So if you have a lasers with a solid state material as active medium, you call those lasers solid state lasers. If your active medium is dyes, that means you can use a liquid materials also as an active medium. So now if you see, the different dyes can be used as a active medium to get lasing action. So what you required is, you required a system which can, energy levels are suitable to have a population inversion, and also gases. So you can have a active medium as a gases, so that you can make a laser system. So all the variety of matter, like you divide matter into different components like solids, liquids and gases. So all the materials will be used as a active medium, provided these materials have a proper energy levels to having a lasing action. So in the gases we have few examples. We know about Heine laser. So helium and neon gases are mixed in a proper composition to have a energy levels, create a population inversion. And also we have argon lasers and krypton lasers. So these are all the examples of gas lasers. And for the dye lasers, we have wide variety of dyes available in the market. So for example, if you want your laser operating at around 550 or 560 nanometers, you can use a rhodamine 560 dye. You dye as your active medium. Okay, so you have to make a proper compartment to place your dye. So your dye is continuously flowed through the system, so that your dye absorption will not depleted, so that you always have unexcited atoms, so that you can excite to excited states. So your dyes have wide variety of ranges. You can see all the visible spectrum from 400 nanometers to 700 nanometer, in even near IR up to 800 nanometers. We have wide variety of dyes available in the market. So any of the dye can be worked, but the only thing is, you can make a tunable lasers with these dyes, so that you can use a different dyes for getting a different wavelengths. So now you combine different compartments to get our lasers with the different types of laser outputs you will get. So that is the advantage of dye lasers. You can get a tunability from all the visible spectrum. So these are the whole spectral range, and also we will discuss different laser systems, where there we can see what is the spectral ranges it will give. So now we will see the modes of operation of the lasers. So we already discussed in the 4-level system and 3-level system, we have two types of modes of operations of the lasers. One is a continuous wave lasers. So that means you always have a beam of light from your laser system. You always have a photons. So that is a continuous. So now we have available CW lasers up to few hundreds of kilowatts. So that is huge powers. So which can be generally used for industrial applications. The other component, your modes of operation of the laser is pulse laser. So this pulse laser means you have a pulse trains different, so it has certain pulse duration or called pulse width, that is delta tau. Okay, so these pulse lasers in general we will get few hundred microseconds to milliseconds. So the pulse length is from milliseconds to microseconds. It's easily you can achieve in the pulse lasers. In the Q-switched lasers, so Q-switched is a technique to make your laser into short pulse laser. So one of the technique is called a Q-switched laser. Okay, Q-switching is one technique. You can make your laser system from few nanoseconds to hundreds of nanoseconds. And the other technique called mode locked. So this mode lock technique will allow us to make the short pulses from few picoseconds to 100 picoseconds. So now you see in the pulse lasers, we are actually getting a time resolutions. Okay. Now there is a technique in the last year. For this technique, it's called a pulse compression technique. It awarded Nobel Prize. So last year in 2018, for this technique, the scientists received Nobel Prize. Okay. So with this pulse compression technique, you can get few femtoseconds of pulses. So that means your pulse width will be in a femtosecond time scale. So millisecond means 10 power minus 3 second, microsecond means 10 power minus 6 second, and nanosecond means 10 power minus 9 seconds, picosecond 10 power minus 12, and femtosecond is 10 power minus 15 seconds. So now in the free air environment, you can achieve these all pulse durations. The free air means like right now, without any vacuum creation in the laboratory or any specific environment, in ambient environment you can create these pulse durations. Further, you want to go to even short pulses, like right now we have femtoseconds. Now if you want to go to attosecond, so attosecond means 10 power minus 18 seconds. You take your femtosecond pulses, and with the different techniques you can achieve attosecond pulses, but the condition is you have to do this process in the vacuum. In the free air, it is almost impossible to achieve attosecond pulses. So because the techniques which will not have suitable conditions in the free air. So these are the pulse lasers. So we have a range of pulse lasers from few milliseconds to attoseconds. Now in the pulse laser, some of the pulses we call ultra fast pulses. Ultra fast pulses we call from picoseconds to attoseconds. These pulses are ultra fast pulses. So these pulses will be utilized to study a fast dynamics in a system. So now we will discuss about different pumping mechanisms. So the pumping mechanism plays a crucial role to get a population inversion, which is essentially required for a amplification process. So we have different pumping mechanisms such as optical pumping, chemical pumping, and electrical pumping. So first we will discuss about optical pumping. So optical pumping means we are utilizing optical beams, that means photons. So one of the optical pumping can be done using lamp, and the second one we can use the laser itself to pump to other laser. So these are the two methods can use to pump a laser. One thing we can use a lamp, and second one we can use a laser. The first one, lamp, we already seen in a first laser system. So this lamp is used to pump a ruby crystal. Now we can see here a different set of lamps here. Okay, so these lamps are a flash lamps. For the top three will be a xenon based flash lamps, and the bottom one is a krypton arc lamp. So now if you see, these lamps will glow. So these are the different wavelengths, and they have different spectral distributions. Okay, so these flash lamps or arc lamps are a common pumping mechanisms for a solid state laser. And you can see here in the corner of this slide, so this is wavelength versus your spectral distribution. So now the x-axis, it runs from 400 nanometers to almost 1.1 micron. Okay, so this is a detector used to measure the spectral range, is a silicon detector. The silicon detector has a a capability of measuring wavelengths from almost close to 400 nanometer. Even you can go a little for deeper in the UV, it can go up to around 260 or 270 if it's provided a good detector, and you can measure up to 1.1 micron. Okay, so now you take a lamp, you measure using a detector, you can see the spectral distributions. So now you see each lamp having a huge, or you can call these are actually a broadband sources. It has many number of frequencies, it is having a range of frequencies. So now you see in the ruby crystal they use a lamp having these many frequencies, and I also discussed about to pump your ruby crystal it requires a specific wavelength region, it's around 550 nanometers. So if you only those photons will able to excite the ruby atoms, the remaining all other frequencies it get wasted. So now if you see, this is the whole design, and back of this lamp there is a aluminum coating will be there, so that whatever the photons will without exciting the rubidium atoms they are escaping, then again come back. That means they are using as the curvature again to reflect the light which incident on the container and again go to the incident on the ruby medium. So but if you assume there is a lot of photons will get wasted, there will huge number of photons, because only very particular region like around 550 nanometer only you have a photons will be useful to excite. The remaining all the frequencies, the energy will get wasted, that creates the heat in the system. Okay, when you use a flash lamps you have to cool your laser system, because there is a lot of heat will dissipated inside the system. These flash lamps having a pulse length of 100 microseconds to few milliseconds. So you are flashing at, this is at the time scales, at different time scales, each pulse having a pulse durations of 100 microseconds to milliseconds. When you pump your laser systems with the flash lamps, you automatically get a pulse laser depending on a suitable medium. So now in your optical pumping, lamp has a few disadvantages. This is your other configuration of your Nd:YAG laser system, your rubidium or Nd:YAG laser system. You have a crystal, laser medium crystal, and these are the two flash lamps are exciting in two opposite directions, and this is the whole assembly, and this is the one on right hand side. This is the fully assembled one. You give the electricity or to run the flash lamps, and your lasing will come from the middle port. Okay, so the disadvantage of this lamp pumping is the electron to optical efficiency is very less. It's very less means almost like close to 5% or less. See, that means 95% of energy of your lamp is getting wasted. So that is becoming heat. So that limits the laser output parameters such as the power and brightness. And also it requires a very efficient cooling mechanisms to protect your laser system. Otherwise your crystal will melt because you have large dissipation of the heat in the system. So it will damage the crystal. So eventually your laser system will be spoiled. So you have to maintain a proper cooling to the system so that the compensation of the energy will be minimized. Okay, now the second one we see is laser pumping. So now you use your laser itself to pump to other laser system. So now for example, this is my crystal as an active medium. Now I am taking a mirror, so which is a it transmits 532 nanometer. So I have a coating on the mirror so that it will transmit 532 nanometer and reflects 800 nanometer. So my active medium is get emission at 800 nanometer. So that is I am choosing a laser system to emit at 800 nanometer. So now this mirror is fully acting as a fully reflecting mirror. It's close to 100% reflecting mirror for 800 nanometer. And this mirror I made such a way that it transmits 532 nanometer. And similarly, this side my 532 nanometer is fully reflected. So this coating will make your 532 nanometer is fully reflected and your 800 nanometer will be partially reflected, that is less than 100%. So now I come with the pump which is at 532 nanometer. Now you see I am not wasting energy of the 532 nanometer. If you want to make many round trips within the cavity, you can insert in a polarizer so that it will always within the your 530 nanometer will within the medium, so that you utilize efficiently your pumping photons. See, your wastage of the energy is very less. And now you have a lasing inside the medium, then you have a output. So this is the laser pumping is a very efficient technique to make your better high power lasers. So now you have this is your 532 nanometer pumping. 532 nanometer means your energy is higher than your 800 nanometer. Your 800 nanometer is 1.55 electron volts. So what I am talking about, this is your 800 nanometer transition, that is a lasing transition.
Yes, got it.
Okay?
Yes.
So that's why your stimulated emission triggers your lasing action. So you will get 800 nanometer. So these energy levels are these are the energy levels will be for your active medium. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with that I will end today's class.